The stars flickered out, swallowed by the shadow of a massive warship looming over the throne world. Princess Inara, once a pawn of the Norellian Empire, had stolen something that could shake the galaxy to its core. A key that unlocked the power to reshape the royal bloodline. Now hunted by her own family, she must confront the Empress herself, the ruthless ruler of an empire that values control over everything. With the galaxy watching, Inara faces the ultimate choice: surrender and live as a puppet, or fight for her freedom and the future of the galaxy. In a world where nothing is as it seems, the final confrontation will determine the fate of them all. But when the doors to the throne room open, one question remains: who will walk out alive? If you're new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's move to this wonderful story. Leo Myers had once been a proud soldier, a natural leader with sharp instincts and an unshakable sense of duty. He commanded a small squad during border patrol missions in the Human Defense Corps. His team trusted him, and his superior officers respected him. But one mistake changed everything. A heated argument with a high-ranking officer led to a fistfight that ended Leo's promising military career. Instead of facing a court-martial, Leo found himself reassigned to what he considered a fate worse than prison. Instead of continuing his duties as a soldier, Leo was transferred to a diplomatic position, guarding some of the most annoying individuals in the galaxy. No more action, no more leadership, no more fulfilling the mission he once loved. Instead, he stood at the front of lavish galas and political events, guarding self-important royals, politicians, and alien dignitaries who cared more about their appearances than the issues at hand. He was told it was for the good of his career, but deep down, Leo knew it was punishment. It was a job that required little more than standing still and looking intimidating, but it was the worst job a soldier could have. Instead of working with his team in the field, Leo was surrounded by people who wore more jewelry than actual clothing, who spent more time on their appearances than on any meaningful conversation. It was a far cry from the battlefield, and Leo couldn't help but feel like he was wasting away. But today was different. Today, Leo had drawn the worst assignment of them all. He was assigned to guard Princess Inara of the Norellian Empire, a name that made even the most hardened soldiers groan. Inara was infamous, and not for the right reasons. Her reputation was that of a wild, unpredictable woman who seemed to be in constant trouble. Some called her a galactic seductress, others called her a time bomb. But no matter the description, one thing was clear: no one wanted to guard her. She had a history of causing diplomatic incidents, and Leo had heard all the stories. 3 broken peace talks, 5 embarrassed ambassadors, and one mysterious incident that led to a whole star system locking its gates to the Norellian Empire. She wasn't just a royal, she was a walking political disaster. Yet, Leo had no choice but to accept the assignment. This was the life now, far from the battlefield and deep into the heart of political warfare. As he stood outside her private quarters aboard the orbiting diplomatic station, Leo couldn't help but wonder if this was the end of his military career. Guarding Princess Inara felt like a cruel joke. The door slid open with a soft hum, and there she was. Inara was standing in front of him, her appearance stunningly unusual. She wore nothing but golden paint that shimmered across her lavender skin. Intricate glowing symbols of peace were drawn along her arms and thighs, and her long silver hair floated slightly in the artificial gravity. Her violet eyes gleamed as she flashed him a sly smile. She looked like a vision from another world, and she knew it. "Oh," she purred, her voice soft and teasing. "They sent me a new one." Leo didn't react, keeping his eyes locked straight ahead, his training kicking in. He was a professional. He didn't show weakness. But inside, his heart was racing. This was no ordinary assignment. This was an encounter with someone who could shatter the calm facade of any diplomat, any soldier. "Are all humans this serious looking?" she asked, a mischievous grin playing on her lips. "Princess," Leo said, keeping his voice steady. "You need to put on some clothing," she giggled, taking a few steps closer. "Why are you shy?" she teased, her voice almost a whisper. Leo didn't blink. He couldn't. His eyes remained fixed on a spot in front of him, doing his best to ignore the flirty and playful air she exuded. His military training had always been about control, about maintaining composure no matter the circumstances. This was no different. No matter how distracting she was, he would not falter. After a few moments, she sighed, turning away with a casual flick of her silver hair. Fine, I'll behave for now. Over the next few hours, Leo followed the princess through various diplomatic events as expected. Her behavior was everything he had heard about. She flirted openly with everyone, alien dignitaries, politicians, and nobles alike. The room buzzed with gossip, and whispers spread as she danced, drank, and laughed loudly. It was chaos disguised as charm, and Leo couldn't help but feel like he was babysitting an overly dramatic child instead of guarding a princess. But even as she caused a ruckus, Leo began to notice something different. There was a sharpness behind Anara's eyes, a look that contradicted the carefree persona she displayed. She wasn't just wild and reckless. She was hiding something. As the evening wore on, he realized that the princess wasn't as carefree as she appeared. Beneath all the laughter and flirtation, something darker was at play. Later that night, Leo stood outside her quarters once again, the quiet of the station settling over him. It was a strange stillness, broken only by the hum of the station's engines. Then, unexpectedly, a soft voice called from behind the door. "Sergeant Leo," the voice said, and he knew it was her. Hesitating only for a moment, he stepped inside. This time, Anara wasn't dressed in her usual flamboyant attire. Instead, she sat alone on the edge of her bed, her long cloak draped around her shoulders, her gaze focused on the stars through the window. "They think I'm stupid," she said, quietly breaking the silence. Leo said nothing. He didn't need to. Her words spoke volumes. "They think I'm just a little princess who plays dress-up, who causes trouble wherever she goes," she continued, her voice softer now. "But they don't know what it's really like, to grow up in the Norellian Empire, to be raised as a tool." Leo frowned, confused. "You're not a tool." She turned to him, her eyes piercing into his. "Do you believe that, even after everything you've seen today?" Leo didn't respond immediately. He simply watched her. She wasn't what he had expected. She wasn't just a spoiled royal. She was something more, something broken, something that was desperate for freedom. Anara's words would echo in his mind for the rest of the night. She had been playing a game of survival, where her charm was her weapon and her enemies were many. And for the first time, Leo began to wonder if he had been assigned to guard a princess or a prisoner. The next day began like any other, but for Leo, something had shifted. Princess Anara was no longer the wild, untouchable royal he had been assigned to guard. She had shown him a side of herself he hadn't expected, a glimpse of vulnerability that no one else had seen. But even as she revealed a little of herself, Leo knew she was hiding something far bigger than he could imagine. It was late in the evening when the change happened. Leo stood his usual post, keeping watch outside her quarters. The hallways of the diplomatic station were quiet, and the soft hum of the engines echoed in the distance. Everything was peaceful, but Leo couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. Anara had been acting strangely ever since their conversation, and it was clear to him that whatever game she was playing it carefully. Then, as the quiet stretched on, the door to her quarters slid open. Anara appeared in the doorway, but this time she wasn't dressed in the usual extravagant clothes. She wore a simple robe, her long silver hair falling freely around her shoulders. There were no golden paints, no flirtatious smiles. She looked normal, almost fragile. "Sergeant Leo," she said, her voice barely a whisper. She didn't wait for his response. Instead, she stepped aside and motioned for him to enter. Leo hesitated, unsure of what to expect, but the princess didn't seem to be in a mood for games. He walked into the room, his boots making no sound against the polished floor. The room was dimly lit, with soft light coming from the stars outside the window. Anara stood by the window, looking out at the vast expanse of space. You wanted to speak with me? Leo asked, trying to keep his voice neutral. Anara turned to face him, her expression serious. They think I'm just a spoiled princess, a toy for the Empire's elites to play with, she said. But that's not who I am. Leo frowned, his instincts telling him that something more was at play here. What do you mean? She looked down at her hands, her fingers trembling slightly. For the first time, Leo saw the weight of responsibility that seemed to press down on her. I wasn't born to be a puppet. I wasn't raised to play dress-up and entertain the galaxy's richest and most powerful people. She sighed and walked over to a chair, sitting down slowly. My family, they raised me to be something else, something more dangerous. Leo stepped closer, sensing that the princess was about to reveal a truth that could change everything. What are you saying? Anara met his gaze, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and determination. I've been groomed to be a weapon, she whispered. The Norellian Empire is built on control, on power, on bloodlines. But I didn't want that. I wanted freedom. I wanted to choose my own path. Leo didn't know how to respond. He had never expected this. His assignment, to guard the princess, had seemed like a simple job, but now as he stood in her presence, he realized that there was far more to this assignment than he had ever imagined. I've been playing the game, Anara continued, her voice growing more intense. The game of politics, of charm, of manipulation. But it's all just a mask. Behind the laughter, behind the flirtations, there's something else. Something they don't want anyone to see. Leo's mind raced. He could see it now. Anara wasn't just a carefree royal. She wasn't just playing at the role of a spoiled princess. There was a plan, a strategy, and something bigger at stake. But what was it? Anara stood up, walking over to a hidden compartment in the room. She pressed a hidden button and a small drawer slid open, revealing a sleek metallic object. She turned to Leo, her eyes hardening. This is why they're after me, she said, holding up the object. It was a small, intricately designed key, a key that seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly energy. Leo's eyes widened. What is that? This, Anara said, her voice low, is the Vira key. It holds the power to unlock the life vault. Leo didn't understand. The life vault? Yes, Anara replied, her voice darkening. It's a vault hidden beneath the royal palace, a place that holds the secrets of the Norellian Empire's bloodline. Only those of true royal blood can enter, and only they can access what lies inside. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. I took something from that vault, something that could change everything. Leo stood frozen, trying to process what he had just heard. You stole something? From the royal vault? Anara nodded, her face grim. I didn't want to. I had no choice, but what I took? It's a blueprint. The genetic code that has kept the Empire's power structure intact for centuries. It's the key to who rules the Norellian Empire, and it's something only the Empress can control. Leo's mind was spinning. He had heard of the vault before, but he never thought it was real. And now, here was the princess herself, telling him that she had stolen something that could bring down the entire empire. If they find out what I took, Anara continued, her voice trembling, they'll kill me. And they'll make sure. It looks like an accident. They'll say I was just a rogue royal, a princess gone mad. But the truth is, I've stolen the future of the empire. Leo didn't know what to say. The princess had crossed a line that could not be undone. She had made herself a target for the Empress and the most powerful family in the galaxy. So what now? Leo asked, his voice steady. What do you want from me? Anara's eyes met his, filled with a mixture of fear and desperation. I need someone who doesn't follow orders, someone who doesn't play politics, someone who will do what's right no matter the cost. Leo's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't asking for his loyalty as a guard. She was asking for something more. She was asking for him to help her. You've picked the wrong person, Leo said quietly. I'm just a soldier, a guard. Anara smiled faintly, the hint of a tear in her eye. You're exactly who I need, Leo. The night after Anara revealed the truth about the Vera key, things changed. Leo could feel the tension in the air, thick and oppressive. The diplomatic station, once a place of calm and predictable routines, had become a trap. Anara had made herself a target, and now Leo was part of it too. The next morning, as they made their way through the corridors of the station, everything felt different. The usual hum of voices, the soft clinking of glasses, and the quiet shuffle of busy diplomats. Nothing was the same. Leo's instincts, honed over years of military training, were on high alert. He kept his eyes scanning the crowd, always looking for the hidden dangers he had never expected to find in a place like this. Anara, on the other hand, was calm, too calm. She walked with her usual air of confidence, flashing smiles and exchanging polite words with those they passed. To the casual observer, she was still the wild, untamed princess. But Leo knew better. He had seen the darkness in her eyes the night before. She was playing a game, one she had been playing for far longer than anyone realized. And now, she had pulled him into it. You know they're coming for me, right? Anara asked, her voice soft but sharp, like a blade hidden beneath silk. Leo nodded, his jaw tightening. I don't know who they are, but I know you're not safe here. Neither of us are. Good, she said, glancing at him with a faint smile. Then maybe we can get something done. They reached a quiet corner of the station, and Leo stood guard while Anara worked, her eyes scanning the data pad in her hands. She was already making plans, her mind always 3 steps ahead. As the morning passed, the atmosphere shifted. The station was no longer a place of diplomacy and peace. It had become a hunting ground, and the hunters were closing in. By the time the station's primary communication channel beeped, Leo's unease had grown into something more intense. He moved quickly to intercept the message, his fingers tapping swiftly over the pad. The message was from Anara's private contact, an ally within the Empire who had been feeding her information. The message was short, but its meaning was clear. They know you've got the Vira key, they're moving fast, get out of there now. Leo didn't need to read the rest. He looked at Anara, who had already gotten to her feet, her expression hardening. It's starting, she said quietly, more to herself than to Leo, but he heard the steel in her voice. She wasn't scared, not anymore. They had no time to waste. Leo and Anara moved swiftly, through quiet hallways and hidden corridors. Leo could feel the eyes on them, even in the empty spaces. Someone was watching, and whoever it was knew that Anara was in danger. Leo had been trained to spot threats in crowded places, but here, in the quiet isolation of the diplomatic station, the danger was even greater. They weren't dealing with a simple assassin or political rival. They were dealing with an entire empire hunting them. As they reached the docking bay, Leo felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. The soft hum of the station's engines was louder here, and the scent of ozone filled the air. The exit was just ahead, a small maintenance hatch that led to the outer sections of the station, where their escape craft waited. Leo checked his sidearm, his heart racing. This wasn't just about a princess, it was about survival now, his survival and hers. They're not going to stop, Leo said, glancing over at Anara. We need to move fast. Stay close to me. Anara gave him a sharp nod, her usual confidence flickering, but she didn't back down. She was ready for what was coming, even if she didn't show it on the outside. Leo admired that about her. She was more than just a political figure now. She was a survivor. As they reached the maintenance hatch, Leo heard the first sign of danger. The faint click of boots against the metal floor. Someone was coming. Leo pressed Anara against the wall, his fingers moving to disable the station's internal locks. His heart pounded in his chest as he heard the approaching footsteps grow louder. We're not alone, Leo whispered. He moved quickly, locking the door behind them. The hatch slid open, and they stepped into the narrow hallway that led to the lower decks of the station. It was an old part of the station, rarely used by anyone. Perfect for hiding. Anara's breathing was steady, but Leo could sense her tension. She wasn't used to running. Not like this. Not with her life on the line. How long do we have? Leo asked, keeping his voice low as they moved through the dark corridor. Not long, she replied. They'll track us down eventually, but we need time to figure out where to go, to make a plan. I think they've already got a plan. For us, Leo muttered under his breath, and it doesn't involve you getting away. As they moved deeper into the station's forgotten sections, Leo couldn't shake the feeling that they were being followed. He could hear the faint hum of the station's monitoring systems, but it felt too quiet, too still. Every corner they turned brought them closer to their escape, but it also brought them closer to their enemies. Suddenly, the sharp, cold sound of a transmission broke the silence. Anara's communication pad buzzed with a new message. They've found us. Leo's stomach dropped. It was happening faster than he had anticipated. The Empire wasn't just after Anara anymore. They were after him too. Anara didn't flinch at the news. She'd known this was coming. Leo, however, wasn't as prepared. His mind raced, calculating the next move. They had to get to their ship, get out of the station, and get to a safe place. But the road ahead was dangerous and the clock was ticking down. They reached the maintenance hatch that led to the docking bay. The small escape craft sat waiting, its engines powered up and ready. Leo ran the final checks as Anara followed. Closely behind, her footsteps light but hurried. She wasn't a princess now. She was a fugitive just like him. The craft's hatch closed behind them with a hiss and Leo took the pilot's seat. He keyed in the launch sequence and the ship's thrusters roared to life. But even as they ascended, Leo couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. We've only just begun, he muttered, staring out into the vast emptiness of space. This hunt is far from over. Leo and Anara sat in silence as the small escape craft floated through the blackness of space. The station, and with it their past life, was now far behind them. The quiet hum of the ship's engines was the only sound that filled the cockpit. Leo kept his hands steady on the controls, but his mind was elsewhere. They had escaped the immediate danger, but the real threat was still ahead. The Norellian Empire and the Empress who would stop at nothing to retrieve the stolen Vera key. Anara sat in the passenger seat beside him, her face as calm as ever, though Leo could see the faint tremor in her hands. The weight of what they had just done was beginning to settle in. She had stolen something that could alter the course of the entire galaxy. And now, they were fugitives, on the run from an empire that would burn everything in its path to get it back. We have to keep moving, Leo said quietly, his gaze still fixed on the control panel. The longer we stay in one place, the more likely they are to find us. Anara nodded, her eyes dark. I know. But where do we go from here, Leo? Where can we hide when the Empire has eyes everywhere? Leo's fingers hovered over the ship's navigation. Controls. The reality of their situation was setting in. The station was gone and they had no other allies left. They couldn't go back to the rebels who were scattered across the galaxy, and they couldn't trust anyone who might be loyal to the Empire. Anara had made sure of that when she stole the Vera key. We need to go to the Dusk Reach cluster, Leo said finally after a long pause. It's a remote area, away from the Empire's reach. It's the only place left where we might be able to lay low for a while. The Dusk Reach cluster, Anara repeated, her voice thoughtful. It's a place few people venture, perfect for disappearing. She paused, then added, But I don't think we're going to get that far, Leo. Leo turned to look at her, his brow furrowed. What do you mean? The Empress knows we're alive. I can feel it. Anara's eyes were sharp now, a fire in them that had been missing before. She'll send everything she has after us, no more hiding, she'll come for us directly. Leo clenched his jaw. He had expected the Empire to chase them down, but he hadn't expected this level of certainty from Anara. She wasn't just a princess running from her mother. She was a woman who knew her enemies, who had spent her life preparing for this moment. And now, she was playing the most dangerous game of all, taking on her own family. We need a plan, Leo said, his voice steady despite the rising tension in his chest. Something that will give us a fighting chance. Anara looked at him, a slow smile crossing her face. It wasn't a smile of amusement, it was a smile of resolve. We already have a plan, Leo, it's just A little unconventional. Leo raised an eyebrow, confused. Unconventional how? We're going to challenge her, Anara said, her voice firm. We'll face the Empress and put everything on the line. And we'll do it in the one place she won't expect, her own throne room. Leo's mind raced. The idea of confronting the Empress directly was madness. The Empire was too powerful, and the Empress herself was a ruthless ruler with the strength of an entire galaxy behind her. But as he looked at Anara, he realized something. This wasn't just about the Vira key anymore. It was about Anara's freedom. Her right to live her life without being controlled by the empire that had defined her existence. You're serious, Leo said, his voice low. I've spent my whole life being told what to do, Leo, Anara replied, her tone unwavering. I've played by their rules, smiled when they told me to, and followed their commands, but no more. I'm going to take control of my own destiny. Leo didn't speak for a moment. He had always been a soldier, trained to follow orders. But, standing here with Anara, he realized something. This wasn't about orders anymore. This was about making a choice to fight for something greater than themselves. Then let's do it, Leo said finally, determination in his eyes. Let's make them regret ever thinking they could control you. With that, they set course for the Norellian Empire's capital, the Throne World. The journey ahead was uncertain, and danger lurked at every turn, but Leo and Anara were ready. They knew that this would be the final confrontation, the last chance to take back control of their lives. No more running, no more hiding. When they arrived at the Throne World, the sky above was dark, filled with the shadows of the Empire's warships. They could feel the weight of the Empire's presence, but they didn't flinch. They had come for one reason: to end the Empire's reign of fear and control. The gates of the royal palace opened before them, and the two of them walked side by side, ready to face whatever came next. Leo's heart pounded in his chest as they approached the heart of the Empire, but he didn't look away. Anara walked with the confidence of someone who had already made her decision. They entered the throne room, a massive chamber carved from obsidian stone where the Empress stood, her eyes cold and unforgiving. The air was thick with tension as the two women faced each other, the final battle about to begin. You've come to challenge me, the Empress said, her voice a low, menacing whisper. You've made a grave mistake, daughter. Anara's voice was steady, unwavering. I've made no mistake, mother. You raised me to be a weapon, but I've become something else, something you can't control. The Empress's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a sneer. You think you can defeat me? I am the Empire. I am its power. You are nothing. We'll see about that, Anara replied, her voice cold and sharp. Leo stood silently by her side, his sidearm ready but still holstered. He wasn't here to fight the Empress with weapons. He was here to stand beside Anara, to help her fight for what was rightfully hers. The Empress's voice echoed through the room. If you want to take the throne, you'll have to prove yourself worthy. But know this, daughter, the Empire will never fall. Anara took a deep breath, the weight of everything she had fought for resting on her shoulders. We'll see, she said, her eyes never leaving the Empress's. Because I'm not just taking the throne, I'm taking back my life. And with that, the final confrontation began.